Hey friends, I'm back. We just started Instagram Live and with my friend Mahmoud, but we had some technical difficulties. And so now we're going to try it again here right now. And for those of you who are live, for those of you who are listening or viewing the recording of this is another session of what we're just calling a virtual immersion. You know, there's so much coming at us and so much media, so many numbers, so many unbelievable images of the human catastrophe that's unfolding before our eyes. And global immersion's conviction is that we need to hear from our Israeli and Palestinian friends and partners, the peacemakers who are embedded in the trenches of this war. And so throughout the next several weeks, we're just simply hosting these conversations. Of course, we're beholden to things like electricity and Wi-Fi and time zones and all that kind of stuff and the shifting sands of all that's happening on the ground over there. So we're also trying to be patient and hold these really well. I want to say too, that these conversations are not scripted conversations. It's not that Mahmoud and I have conspired a particular thing that we want to talk about. This is an opportunity for the visceral and the vulnerable and the raw. And that's what I think, that's who Mahmoud is. And that's what I think you're going to see in our time here together with him. And Mahmoud is someone who's been in the trenches for a really long time. I think we're going to have an opportunity to hear from him what it's been like to be a peacemaker among one of the most impacted populations, refugee camps in the West Bank called the Balata refugee camp up in Nablus, which is right next to Jacob's Well, which there's all sorts of ironies connected to all of that. What I've learned about Balata through Mahmoud is that this is a place as well where is under a different kind of siege, maybe similar to what Gaza has experienced. What I'm inspired by when it comes to Mahmoud so much, honestly, but one of the things is like his commitment to work with young people who are being raised in that level of occupation, that level of violence. And, you know, imagine with me, if you would, the trauma that happens to young people who are being raised in a place where they're under a pretty full control all of the time. Mahmoud is an expert in helping young people be tough on the system, but soft on people. He's always helping folks see that there's a difference between the system that occupies and the human beings that are in it as well. You know, one of the conversations I want to have with him is in the midst of all that's going on right now, how are you cultivating the imaginations of the emerging generations so that they don't hate? I'm watching the atrocities that are happening in Gaza, and I'm watching these children in hospitals who are shocked and, you know, obviously traumatized. And I'm thinking to myself, God, don't let them become the next round of insurgents because of what it is that they're experiencing here. And it's peacemakers like Mahmoud who are in the trenches with these young survivors, cultivating in them an imagination for reconciliation over revenge, which seems unthinkable to me, but it's the work that he's been called to and he's incredible at. And so what I want to do, oh wait, hold on, he's joined. Oh guys, I think we're close. This is going to happen. Let's see. Oh, you guys, we've done it. We've done it. Mahmoud, my brother, good to see you. I've been yammering and speaking about the brilliance of your work for the last 10 minutes as we've been working on the tech kinks. Man, thanks for fighting to get on with me. It's really good to see your face. It's been way too long since I've seen you.
Me too. It's been a while. So.
Yeah, it's been too long. I was just, man, there's so much to talk about. One of the things that I was just saying to folks before you were coming in is that like these conversations aren't scripted conversations. These are conversations between friends and people who love one another dearly and know each other's kids and care about each other's wives. And, you know, and so at the very beginning, like this is a deeply human reality, a connection between brothers. And so can you just bring us into how you're doing and what is the experience of this right now for you? I let folks know that, of course, you're coming in from the West Bank, and many of us who are watching understand that the West Bank is different than the Gaza Strip. But maybe if you can even help us understand, where are you calling in from right now? And and just like, how are you doing, man? Just like, what's the general state of you at the minute? And then we can talk about what's happening, but we want to hear from you and how you are.
Well, I mean, I live in the city of Nablus, which probably is some of, our friends came to visit, which is in the north of the West Bank. Nablus is a very politically active, and I mean, throughout the years of the whole story, but most recently in the last 2 years, with a lot of phenomenons of young people, forming resistance groups against the Israeli occupation. So the city was going through a lot of atrocities, and a lot of young people were killed in the clashes with the Israelis. When it comes to how am I doing, I'm not doing well at all. I am not okay. I'm very tired. I'm very exhausted. I mean, I'm a father. I have 2 boys and I have a girl. They're teenagers, which is the hardest, time probably for all of us as parents. And to have them also living in Nablus and under the whole situation that we are going through with what's going on in Gaza. I mean, even before the war was a challenge, because of the normal situation in Nablus with a lot of clashes and a lot of resistance. That makes, any young boy, especially the boys, with a lot of emotions and feelings of belongings to their community and knowing or not knowing the people who were lost in the fight. But it's a lot of emotions, and those emotions can become very scary, at certain points. That for me as a father, I'm worried that kids will just run and go after, demonstrations or go with the gunmen or just being affected like any growing up child, a teenager with a lot of hormones, a lot of emotions. That was before Gaza. And now imagine how it could be with what's going on with Gaza, especially that my father's side of the family, they live in Gaza. I have tens of cousins and of course, with a lot of siblings and live in Gaza. I have 4 or 5 aunts also live in different places in Gaza, and they all have siblings who are grandfathers now. And so we talk about thousands of family members, that I don't know most of them, but I mean, I know their parents, their grandparents, and they're my family. And this is the worst part, because I mean, since day one, I'm trying to connect, to contact those people. They're just normal people, they're workers, they're doctors, they're teachers, and with kids. And now it's almost impossible to reach any of them. I was able to reach some of them sometimes, but their situation is horrible. We have lost many of the cousins with their families. I cannot really count the number. And the others lost their homes. And my daily routine is hooked up to the news, hooked up to all the social media, to all means of communication, and trying to call all the time, but no reaction. Finally, I send a message or I get a message that we are alive. Alhamdulillah. Thank God we are alive. Don't worry. And then it goes for days, and then sometimes, I mean, now I have no connection with anybody. And I mean, this is crazy. This is crazy. It's total insanity. And I'm watching the news and they are bombing, area A or area B or this place or this place. I know my aunt lives in Jabalia. Her, sons live also in Jabalia. The neighborhood that they bombed, I know this is their neighborhood, but I have no idea, to tell you the truth. So many neighborhoods, that they were bombed, and I have family members there. And I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean, I don't know how to really describe this. I mean, I'm watching the news. Maybe some of them are my family members, but I don't know them, different generations. And I haven't been to Gaza since the last, 4 years, and when I went there, I mean, I met some of the older ones, that I know them from before, but the second generations, or third generations, I don't really know them. I know maybe some names, but it's very horrible to watch all the atrocities that are being broadcast directly on Al Jazeera, other local channels, and seeing this carpet bombing, and I mean, mass killing of families, I mean, my aunt in Jabal, 2 of her sons, their their daughters, like whole family of their daughters were wiped out, like their in-laws, and, and I mean, I don't know how I can even express those feelings. I mean, just seeing all those innocent people, children, especially children. I mean, yes, I have children, but I have dedicated my life in Palestine, working with youth centers, working with children, teenagers. I mean, I gave up my life in the US, which was very luxurious, very comfortable, and came and lived, and stayed in the place where I grew up, which is a refugee camp in Nablus, and tried to provide, and serve and help those children to grow up with some new alternatives, because they have no alternatives. I mean, they have nothing to think about for the future. And it was a very hard work to do, to try to give hope to people who have no hope. And it worked out in many cases, not all the time, but in many situations that there was a change. And I'm very proud of it, but now we are at a point that even us are losing hope, because, I mean, we see the whole world is just joined up together against 2 million civilians, God's sake, and ice killing. It's like, it's a genocide. It's horrible. And people are just, I don't know. I mean, as if nothing is happening. I mean, I'm an American at the same time. I'm Palestinian, but I'm also American. And that makes me very ashamed, of being also part of this. And I lived in America, and I know a lot of people, and I know more people now than you and John and, others. And this is just kills me when I see people living their life in a normal way, and they see children, ripped apart, their bodies are scattered all over the place. Their parents are collecting their body parts, putting them in bags so they can bury them. And they can say, once upon a time, those pieces of meat were my daughter or my son. And 32 days of this constant killing and destruction. And it just makes me feel like everything I believed in, humanity and, peace and peace building, peacemaking, everything is just up in there, And this frustration, it's a horrible situation that I am in, and that we are all in, whether we are joining and feeling about it or ignoring, because this is a historical moment in the whole, history of mankind. This is a new era in history. Will hold us all accountable for what is happening by saying something, by shutting our mouths and ignoring what is happening. We will all be held accountable by history. And then one day we will all depart this world, and we will go and we will stand in the front of God, and God will judge us, and he will ask us, what the hell have you been doing, on my earth? And my people, my children are being killed, slaughtered, and you are just stepping aside and doing nothing. Go out dancing and eating and drinking and driving your car and living your la vida loca, and not even noticing what is happening to those people. It's like losing faith in everything, except like faith in this is our destiny, we believe that maybe this is what God wants for us, as Palestinians, and especially the people in Gaza, to be the ones suffering on earth, the chosen one, the real chosen one, who will take all the suffering of the villains of earth, and then we will be rewarded with something much better. I hope so, on the other side of our life.
Mahmoud, thank you. I feel like to express anything after that feels disingenuous. Thank you for keeping it straight, keeping it real. I mean, I find strength and solidarity with you as a fellow peacemaker, because you're one of the fiercest peacemakers I know. And to hear you also say in this moment of despair, like, it all feels like it's up in the air, and that just feels real, and so brother, I love you, and I feel your sorrow, and from afar, I'm breathing all of the energy and support and the care to you that I possibly can in this moment. And father to father, I also know, because you and I, in our entire friendship, has spent a lot of time talking about how do we raise peacemakers? I mean, in our work, we form peacemakers, but one of the questions you and I have always been talking about for over a decade is, how do you raise peacemakers into a world that's etched by pain? And so I wonder if you can, as a father, talk to us a little bit more, if you're up for it, around, like, you get 3 beautiful children who have been raised in this insanity, who are watching what's going on. You said they're teenagers now, especially you're a teenager now. Yeah. What are you willing to share with us around, like, what is it like to be a dad in the midst of this? What are you like? What's the concern that you have? Is there hope? What does it mean to be a father, especially to your eldest son right now, who I imagine is rattled? That's probably an understatement, by what it is that he's watching on his phone. So talk to us, like, beyond the professional, like, talk to us as a dad, what's it like, right?
Yeah. I mean, as simple as it could be, I mean, we are all fathers. The most important thing in our life, is our family, our children. And we are willing to sacrifice our life, to serve our children. That's who we are. At least I know I am this way. I know you are this way, and this is nature, this is how we are all built. And this is like the normal living situation. So imagine, when you are in a situation that is out of control. I mean, I raised my children from the beginning to be open-minded, to accept everybody, to accept the others, religious, not religious, whatever they have in their mind or their thought, that we respect. As long as they show me respect, I do respect, the others. And you have met them. They have met a lot of my international friends. And we have this open relationship, I mean, I raised them to be open and to be honest, and nothing to be hidden. Whatever they want to do, they want to say, we talk about it. I mean, I'm proud of this kind of relationship, with my children, which I think it's good, because they can come and express any feeling that they have. They don't find borders. They don't hesitate to come and talk. But teenage boys are teenage boys, I mean, when they go crazy, this is normal. Doesn't matter. Palestinian, American, Israeli, Canadian, Hindus, whatever. They want to tell us that they are growing up, that they are, they have their own personality. They are mature enough to make decisions, and I cannot collide with them, but we have to talk, to discuss. And all the time we try to talk about what's going on. I mean, they keep asking about our family in Gaza, what happened with them. And I see the sadness, I see the frustration, and sometimes this accumulation of anger. But I see that the more you have an open space to talk about it, or to talk about what is going on, and also accepting, the situation, and understanding that we Palestinians, even though they are Americans too, but we have this story. We have this, I don't know, it is a blessing or it's a curse, but this is what we have, and we have to take it somehow, and to believe that God created us. He put us here for a reason, and definitely there will be a payoff, for it, maybe in the other life, because faith is very important. Believing is very important. But as I said, talking about it all the time, sometimes we sit down, we play cards, just, for a change.
Yeah.
I have good relationship with young people. So all their friends, they like me. So our house is always full of their friends. Seems like maybe they don't have that relationship with their families, but I'm very open with them and I go out with them. I take them from here to there, to places, and I play cards sometimes with them. So they're very comfortable. So I open my house for them to come and have this venting out, talking, open their hearts, have discussions, even if they start screaming at each other and throwing stuff on each other, cards or piece of chocolate or whatever, but just to get this passive energy, to get it out.
Mahmoud, I think that's it's amazing to me. Like, I think the essence of your work for so many years as a peacemaker has been awakening the imaginations of young people, walking with young people who have been traumatized by structural violence into a way of life where they choose reconciliation over revenge, where they have a more pro-human approach, even to those who hold the guns that are their oppressors. Like, that's been your work. And I know, and this is true for you. You and I were chatting last week, like, your work and the work of so many other peacemakers right now has been frozen or stalled out, or funding has been dropped, or, and what I find remarkable about what you just expressed is that you're taking all of your superpowers as a peacemaker and you're creating space for your kids and their friends right now, doing the exact same things in your home that you've been doing in Centers for Peace and Reconciliation for years and years.
Yeah.
It's good work, my friend, and thank you for doing it. I can't imagine as a father what it must be like trying to create some semblance of joy, or call it normalcy, or call like a break from the insanity. But I'm imagining that in providing those moments, the souls of these young people are able to take a breath or a gasp, and that feels like holy work.
This is the least that we can do, because I always said that your beliefs in something in the normal times, it's very easy to brag about it. To say, I am a very good Christian. I am a very good Muslim. I am a good human rights advocate. I am the greatest, strongest, I don't know, whatever. But under disasters, under situations that are not stable, the real thing show up. If you are a real believer, if you have faith that is for real, then it will show up, under those circumstances. When you are not strong, you are the weakest part. You are under the most atrocious situation, then I can see if you are a true believer or if you are a good advocate, a true peacemaker, or whatever label you want to see. So those situations where you need to show who you really are, in the good times, when it's convenient, when it's easy, I can speak forever and make the whole world believe that I am the new Messiah, but that is bullshit. That damn, the reality when it is the real time. That's when I said, that this is something real that is happening. It's a new Holocaust that is being committed. It's a new genocide that is being committed in front of everybody. This is where I show myself if I am real human being or not, or if I am just a fake human rights advocate, or pretend that I am, a nice person or a nice human. This is where I can see who you are, who are the moments of reality, the moments of truth. And under those circumstances, this is where we become creative. You remember to be creative in love, to be creative in peacemaking. This is the time. This is the time. I mean, I know a lot of Jewish people. I have Jewish friends in the US, even in Israel. And to say something about this, this is like being a traitor. But for my children, now they understand that Jewish people can be really good people. But Zionism is the problem, which is a problem also for the Jewish community, for the Jewish people. When I show them some of my friends who are leading the Jewish Voice for Peace and entering, the Congress and in New York or in Washington, D.C., and being very activist, pro-peace, pro-humanity, pro-Palestine, this is also their responsibility, As I said, it's not just by saying slogans or in bright words. This is the real thing. And when I thought that maybe when those kids come and sit and we hang out together and make some fun and cry sometimes, get very angry sometimes, I go to Balata also. I go to the center. I see how frustrated they are, how damaged they are. Sometimes, it's only just being there, just talking to those people, giving them the space just talk, to just express their feelings, give them the feeling that I love you. I care about you. It's okay. It's difficult. It's not just difficult. It's almost impossible, but hey, we have to survive. We have to stick together. We have to support each other, even though with one word or, grabbing a cup of coffee or let's go do some activities. I mean, anything simple. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what it is. Anything that we can think about to keep our sanity at those moments. I think this is very blessed.
That's feeling. I'm just so moved by the notion that crisis, it's in the moments of crisis that indicate who we really are. This moment calls for all of us to be the absolute best versions of ourselves from wherever we are on the planet. What an incredible challenge for me today. And Mahmoud, let me ask that there are three things that I have been moved by and I've learned from you in the work of peacemaking that I want to just explore with you. And so that your message and some of the ways in which you've lived this actually impacts many more. First and foremost, I've heard you say over time that there's a difference between the Jewish people and the Zionist occupation. And in this moment, the reality of that occupation is more severe, intense than it has been in perhaps ever in Gaza. And I think we're beginning to see the implications of that increasing, the occupation, the grip of the occupation strengthening on the West Bank, impacting your life significantly. I'm wondering how in this time, how have over time you differentiated between a system, a Zionist occupation structure and the structural violence that comes with that, and the Jewish human, right? Because I'm hearing in the West, so much of the conversation is like, we want to equate Hamas equals Palestinian, equals Muslim, equals terrorist, equals enemy. Or we want to say, Jewish equals Zionist equals terrorist in a different way equals enemy, and it's like, we're just creating these false binaries and equivalencies that are just simply increasing the heat of violence. And I've heard you over time do an incredible job differentiating the human being from the system. How have you done that? And what is it like, again, visceral and vulnerable, what is it like to do that right now when the system is creating such a catastrophe, especially to people that you love?
Well, I mean, it's not that easy, but as I said at the end, I look at myself as a human being, regardless of my faith or beliefs. And all my life, I trained myself to deal with people as people. I never cared, if you are Christian or Jews or Hindus. I don't care. It's not my issue. I mean, if I know or if I want to know, it's just because I want to be cautious so I don't hurt you or say something that will offend you or just, in the positive side. not to attack you or accuse you, you are whatever, Christian or Jews, whatever. And maybe that labeling, of humanity and being a human being comes first. That's how it started. I mean, I'm educated, I read a lot, I'm aware of Zionism and what it's doing to Israel, what it's doing also to the US. I mean, it's like holding the US from the neck. And it's all about business and money and power and control of resources and all that stuff. And also dealing with many Jewish people, in the US or even in Palestine here or Israel. As I said, if you just deal with people and they deal with you on the same basis that, we're humans and create mutual understanding and acceptance of each other. And then you see the ones who are Zionists that they are, and sometimes you feel like they are not really Jewish, they're just colonial people. I mean, people who don't care about anybody. They don't even care about their own Jewish people. And they are very racist. They are very supremacist. I don't know. I forget how to say the word.
Supremacist?
Yes. And I mean, I see a lot of Jewish people suffering in Israel because they are poor and because they are from Ethiopia or from African descent or from Middle Eastern descent. And I mean, this is not Judaism. I mean, the words of God came to Moses or to Jesus or Muhammad talking about the people, all kinds of people. It's not limited to black or white or Asian or ethnic or, doesn't, it went to everybody. So I think by the time, and of course, how much you are aware of your surrounding and educated and also contact, human contact gives you its ability to see the difference between the good ones or the bad ones, the ones, because I mean, I knew people in the US, they were Jewish. I never thought about this. I didn't even know, when I was in my university in Palestine, I had a lot of Christian friends and I didn't know they are Christian, until the Christmas game. And I never thought about it. I never think about it. It's just this is a good friend. This is a good person. There could be a Muslim person who is fanatic and he's evil. The same thing, I mean, the problem that was created throughout this whole thing that some people in power created powerful people who are extremists. And those extremists tried to make stereotype of the whole community that they belong to, like Al-Qaeda or Daesh, to stereotype all the Muslims that they are, bad. And if you come to Israel and you see those Jewish settlers, which I don't consider them Jewish, they are just extreme Zionists. Anybody will see them, they will say all the Jewish people are extreme, are killers, are mass killers. The same thing for Christians. When you see some of those white, right-wing Christians, and how they deal with the human beings, it doesn't matter even in the US, you think that all Christians are bad this way, but this is not the reality, I mean, we all have responsibility. As I said at the beginning, it's my responsibility as Mahmoud, as Jer, as X or Y, to follow my heart and also follow the real teachings of any religion that that talks about brotherhood. It's not about the indifferences. It's about, how we can connect. Okay, I have some different things from you as a Christian or as a Jew, but at the end, we all relate to one God, and I don't think God has favoritism, He's God. He's not going to do that. Otherwise, he's not eligible to be a God, So the same for us. I have to look at everybody, regardless of their color of their eyes or the color of their skin or, if they're beautiful or not, or they're coming from the south or north or, like humans like me. This way, I will connect with you. I will connect with even, with a rabbi, I will connect even with the devil, It's about mutual understanding, mutual respect, and that's how you can develop those skills. It's not something that you learn at school, it's how you build yourself. But as I said, with no references, with no stereotypes, with no prejudgment, it's just straightforward, human to human. And this is the worst thing this is very difficult thing to do. But if you have the will, believe me, you would do it.
Yeah. Mahmoud, in my tradition, we would say you're preaching, my friend. You're preaching right now. And the deeper that I go, especially with Abrahamic traditions and in relationships with you and Jewish siblings, I just keep finding that at the essence of our tradition, the essence of our faith, it's a deep passion to remake the world and the acknowledgement that we need to do this together. That the very essence of our traditions, should we be like faithful followers of our traditions, we're actually reaching for each other's hands rather than for power.
Yeah.
And we're acknowledging the humanity and the dignity and the image of the Creator in one another. And we're linking hands in actually remaking the world with one another. And I grieve right now the way, and I think we're watching it play out, the ways in which religion has been weaponized to control and to dominate and to separate, and which is a break from all of the traditions. To win is to break from our three traditions. And I hear that. I hear in what you're preaching, if you can let me use that term, that at the very essence, this all begins. And what we say with global immersion is that belovedness is the bedrock of peacemaking. What we mean by that, it's like we have to acknowledge first and foremost that we are beloved. And if I believe that I'm beloved, then I can see that you are too. But if I don't believe that I'm beloved, then I'm going to use you to try to achieve my belovedness. You see what I'm saying? And so there's the work that we have to do right now as individuals in the interior world to remember I am human, I am cherished, and so are they. And I think if we can begin in our waking moments with that, I think it will actually fuel us to live our lives responsively to that, rather than trying to achieve belovedness by conquering or consuming somebody else. And I feel like you've been a master teacher for me in that regard, not only in the thoughts that you offer, but in a way that I've actually watched you do that with others, but with me as a Christian brother, in the revolution with you. One of the things that, and I think you're uniquely positioned to offer some commentary into this. Over here in the West, clearly it's very easy for us to dehumanize Hamas, and the pictures that circulate in the West are of these men. It seems to be men in black uniforms with black, like a ninja, black covering and green and all these things. And you have trained me to look at their eyes. And so whenever I see a picture of Hamas insurgents, I'm looking at their eyes, and I'm not looking at their guns, and I'm not looking at their regalia. And the same thing is true, because you've taught me this, the same thing is true as I look at Israeli soldiers right now. When I was being evacuated, and I was sitting at Ben Gurion airport by arrivals, and I was waiting to be able to get through onto my plane, and I watched hundreds upon hundreds of young men and women, Jewish kin, coming back from all over the world as reservists to fight this war. And you train me to look at their eyes. And, so I see in these young people, I see in their eyes that they are young people who have been socialized into a system that demands the perpetuation of violence in order to achieve something. It's like their imaginations have been calcified for a way of moving in this world where we can actually put down our guns and reach for the hand of one another. And so I see similar things in the eyes of both of these people, and specifically as I'm looking at Hamas insurgents, and this is what I wanted to talk to you about. I'm looking at their eyes, and I'm like, these are like 23-year-old kids, and I imagine as I look at them, the story that I imagine about them is that these are kids that were crawling out of the rubble 12 years ago. They're the survivors of the last siege. And here they are now, because they have found meaning in revenge rather than reconciliation. The reason that I think you're uniquely suited to talk to us about this, Mahmoud, and this is not me condoning anything that Hamas did on October the 7th or continues to do, nor is me condoning what I think is an atrocious human catastrophe at the hands of Israeli retaliation. I'm just simply saying that, like pulling a thread from what you just said, we're humans first. And what I've learned is that those who enact violence tend to espouse an ideology that was shaped by suffering, by trauma. And one of the things I remember you shared with me as we sat in the Balata refugee camp is during the intifadas, when the suicide bombers, when that strategy began to be enacted by young Palestinian youth, many of them were coming from Balata or places like the Balata refugee camp. And I remember, I'll never forget that you said this. You're like, I will never condone that strategy. I will never condone that violence, but I understand it because I know these kids. And I know that behind every suicide bomber, there is a long, deep story of pain.
Yes.
And so
exactly.
Will you help us humanize not only the Hamas insurgents, but help us humanize these young people, because they're young people on both sides of this horror that have been traumatized by ideologies. They've been lied to, especially with the Hamas insurgents. They've crawled out of the rubble to try to make a world where that doesn't happen again. And they're choosing violence rather than reaching for the hands of their enemies. Help us humanize these young kids, if you would.
Well, that's a big challenge. Talking about humanity, humanity is not only on the good side. Part of being a human, it's heaven. We have the angel health and we have the animal, and it's our duty, our responsibility to let which one to grow, the angel one or the animal one. And for what happened recently, the problem with the world that they think that the story, started on October 7th. They totally ignored the context, the 75 years of the occupation and the Nakba, the catastrophe, and the displacement of the Palestinians, and the whole narrative of the Palestinian story. You cannot just disregard this. You can't just put it on the shelf or throw it in the trash. You came to Balata. You saw how life is there. 30,000 people living on like 0.12% of a square mile. 30,000 people, And you walked around, you saw how crowded it is and how packed, it is, and the high poverty. And this is a lifelong story. Balata is just a little example. In Gaza, it's even worse because Gaza is the most crowded, high density of population on earth. 365 kilometers that inhabits 2.3 million people. This is unbelievable. They have been under siege for 17 years. You know what it means, siege? They cannot get out. They cannot go in. It's a prison. It's just an open air prison. And with the siege, of course, a lot of things cannot come in. I went to Gaza many times through my work. Otherwise, of course, I cannot go to Gaza. People have power, electricity 4 hours a day for almost 17 years. How much this will affect their daily life, their daily routine, studying, eating, the fridge, business, work, unless they have some money to have a generator that needs fuel also to give them light and power for going on with life. In the past, when we talked about the suicide bombers at that time, yes, nobody came out of the blue. They were all brothers or sisters or, family members or best friends of somebody who was killed in front of them. And they were all very young. 17, 18, 19, 20, maybe 22, the oldest. So at the end, they are young people, teenagers, or even older, a little bit older, but their teenage years were, the time that they lived in the situation. where they were born to an atrocity that they received from their parents. And the same thing for Gaza, and it's even worse. I can tell you, I don't know the people who attacked Israel on October 7th, but the norm that they are, yes, they are 18, 19, 20, 21, 23, maybe, years old. Those kids, I am sure, as I am seeing you, they are from the families who were murdered in the war of 2004. 3,500 people were killed at that time, And what would you expect? Those kids growing up, no father, no mother, no uncle, no brother, or maybe they lost the whole family and they were the only one left. Very easy for Hamas or any part of the factions, to take them in and raise them and take care of them, and they will become fighters. But it's not that they want to come and attack and kill people just because they want to kill them. Revenge is an issue, but also, we have to be honest. We are people under occupation, in 1948, we lost our country. We lost our land. My father was born in Haifa and he lost everything that he had and he owned in Haifa and ended up living in the refugee camp. My mother was born in 1948 because my grandmother, her mother, was pregnant, and they left their little town, near Jaffa, and they came walking to the West Bank, and in the middle of the road, she gave birth to my mother. That's why they named her Azar, which means immigrant. So this is a long story behind, with a lot of pain, with a lot of suffering, that at the end, as a human being, you can just disregard and take yourself out of it, and you don't even think about it. Of course you will think about it, because if in 1948, the world came up with a solution to make, the people forget the atrocities that they suffered from and start a new page, believe me, people will just then get used to it. And okay, it happened. Now I have a new life. It's going okay. But it didn't. It continued to be bad. It continued to get worse and worse year after year. The camp where I was born in was established in 1950-51. 48 to 51, people were living everywhere, in the mountains, in caves, on the street, in schools. Then we moved into this refugee camp that was a bunch of tents. That went on for many years until they started to settle down, and not settling down, but, trying to live, because the story is not ending. They thought it's going to go for a few years, 2 or 3 years, 4 years, but look at it.
Yeah.
It's 75 years and it is still there, with more of the occupation in 1967, more atrocities, more people were kicked out, and had another migration to Jordan or other places, So the saga is not just stopping. It's just continuing. And Palestine, many people, posted this map of Palestine before 1948, and now how it looks now. It's like green dots. Everywhere you go, I live in Nablus. I cannot leave Nablus since October 7, and even before October 7, it's very difficult to move from one city to another city. The settlers now are close to 1 million in the West Bank. This is unbelievable. And they are not nice people. They are very extremist, and they have the green light to burn, to attack houses, to kill Palestinians, and nothing happens to them.
Yeah.
They, on the contrary, they get appreciation letters from some Israeli official. So they are encouraging them. They are all equipped with machine guns, and they have the license to kill. So, in this kind of situation, and, for a child growing up, many of the kids that I worked with in Balata, and they ended up joining the fights. They became militants and they were killed. And I told you last week, the son of my friend Faiz, who is the director of of the center, his son was killed by the Israelis in the clashes. I mean, why are they doing this? Why? I mean, if they have something else, if they have any other alternative and anything that will take this anger away and the grief for the loss of their family or friends. And I mean, Faiz has a lot of family also in Gaza, and he lost some of his cousins with their families. So it's just continuing to happen.
Yeah.
All the reasons for anger is just getting there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is on the Palestinian side. It's just a natural result or a natural outcome of living this kind of life generation after generation.
Yeah.
And the Israeli side, it's the structured, violence. It's the doctrine of the Zionism that is taking over the souls and the hearts of the people there. That always feeling that they are superior and they have to be protected. They have to be saved. And the others, it doesn't matter. I mean, what happens to them? And the reality is just what we are seeing. Those guys, when they came to attack, on October 7th, they came thinking that they are doing the right thing, because there are 6,000 or 7,000 Palestinian prisoners who are in prison for the last 30 or 40 years. And they were freedom fighters, and Israel is not letting them go. They thought that we will go and hijack, the place, kidnap some soldiers, and then we will do, a deal, and we will get our people out. Things went out of control. I mean, the militants, when they came in, they were coming to fight the armies. The people of Gaza, when they heard all this frustration of the 75 years, but mostly the last 17 years, even women and children and old people stormed into the settlements and tried to take revenge. So some bad things could have happened, or they happened actually. But it was a result of this, accumulation of anger.
Yeah.
I don't say it's right or wrong, but the description, and
That's so helpful, and it's so necessary for us in the West. There is just zero understanding, by and large, of a 17-year siege. I'm even finding myself working with folks to help them understand that Gaza is a 25 mile by 6 mile, fully enclosed, as you say, open air prison.
Yeah.
And as people begin to understand the geographic reality of that, what a siege actually means, how many people live in that space, and what the last 17 years have looked like for these folk, not only in terms of the blockade, air, land, sea, but like also a series of military campaigns, and Hamas rockets retaliate. And so it's like, as I watch people build a more holistic understanding of this crisis, I think it helps them begin to understand, the human beings behind the attack on October 7th are probably deeply shaped by stories of trauma, violence, and pain. Again, that is not a condoning what happened on October 7th. But if we're gonna be pro-human, we can be pro-human to critique the action, the activity. But to be pro-human means that we actually have to understand the story of pain that lies behind it. I think the same thing is true for our Israeli Jewish kin. I remember being at Yad Vashem, which is the Holocaust Museum in Jerusalem, and watching a platoon of kids. They're like 16-year-old kids, Jewish kids, a platoon of them in their khakis being escorted through Yad Vashem. And part of the story of Yad Vashem, from my point of view, is the world tried to eliminate us. God abandoned us, and we survived because of us. And then at the end of this tour, they place machine guns in the hands of 16-year-old kids and say, now it's your turn to ensure that this never happens to us again. Think about the trauma of a militarized society and the fear that's etched into their souls before they even have any human encounters with their Palestinian kin. Not to mention the structural violence that actually prohibits Palestinians from actually making the physical contact with Israeli Jews and vice versa that you spoke of earlier in this conversation.
Yeah.
So the entire system is designed, it seems, to traumatize people to respond exactly like we saw happen on October 7th and then the aftermath of this.
Exactly.
And so we, again, It's amazing how hundreds of billions of dollars are being poured into the system of violence and retaliation. But what's needed is hundreds of billions of dollars invested in leaders like you, Mahmoud, who are awakening the imaginations of traumatized young people to choose a life where they reach for the hand of one another rather than power. And that's the movement that we've got to keep. We've got to get a ceasefire on this thing to end the violence as a next step. But as a global community, we've got to start thinking the inertia and the preference for violence that we have, thinking that's going to make us safe, when in fact, all it does is traumatize all of us. Nobody's winning.
Yes, of course. If this thing is going to continue, and as they are, claiming that they will end this, unless it's becoming an idea, it's not an organization. It's not, a group of terrorists or fighters. That doesn't matter what you want to call it. It's becoming an idea. It's becoming an ideology that now, in the election, they were 35%, maybe 40%. If they have elections tomorrow, they will get 99%, because people think that they represent their pain, their suffering. They revenge for them, So that's the thing. If the world is not going to wake up, the world, I don't mean the official world. Those people are sleeping and they are involved in their business or whatever interest. But us, the people, especially the people in the US, normal citizens, the humans, the good ones. One of the things that I liked about the US, that the people are nice, and they have good heart. They just need to find this kindness inside of them, and stop feeling that they are so far away from everything, As I said at the beginning, it's our own responsibility now to prove that we are humans. Long time ago, maybe we talked about some of those issues. One of them is the barrier wall, the separation wall between the Palestinian area and the Israeli area. They always said it's for security. I never believed that it is for security. It is for separation, to separate the people from each other. So the Israelis, they will not see us, only what they hear from their structured media and, propaganda, that behind the wall, they are all animals, monsters, terrorists trying to kill us, shooting rockets and yes, that's how it was built, for decades. But when Palestinians and Israelis meet in the US or in Egypt or in Turkey, I heard so many stories, that many people became friends because they realized, both of them, they are both coming to have a good time.
Right.
They are both eating. They are both drinking, maybe drinking juice or alcohol. It doesn't matter. They go to swim at the same time and they can play volleyball on the beach, not knowing who they are, and then they realize that, a Palestinian and an Israeli are having fun at the same time and feeling the shock, that they can be friends.
Yeah. That's right.
So that's the thing, we have a big responsibility, my friend. We have a big responsibility, especially on your side.
Yeah.
Ceasefire must come, very soon.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. Give me a last thought here, Mahmoud. Global Immersion is working with American evangelicals, and the work that we're doing is companioning them on a journey from a religion that dominates to a faith that restores. And right now that has to look like building power to actually get a ceasefire. We have to build the agency of our politicians and our representatives to actually move beyond their own ideology to demand a ceasefire here. Put that kind of pressure on is critical. And as people of faith, I think we join you in an orientation that says our work is not just to bring an end to violence. It's to dismantle every barrier that separates us one from another. And that's the work that you're doing. That's the work that I'm doing in different parts of the world. That's what our brotherhood is built on. And so in kind of your last word, what would you say to American evangelicals right now? Like you have our attention. What would you say to us?
Yeah. Well, it's as simple as it is, we are all human beings. We belong to one God. And let's break down the walls that separate us, and build paths, roads that will connect us. Because eventually, none of us will last forever on this earth. We will have to go back to God and submit to Him. And we have a lot of questions to answer. So be prepared, go back to your humanity, and believe that God is one and He loves us all, regardless of who we are. That's it.
I love you, my friend. Thank you for the gifts that you've given us, friends, as you're here right now, listening in, and as you're listening to the recording. I think a way that we can support Mahmoud is to reflect back to him the ways in which you've been moved by what he just offered to us. And so I encourage you to do that and tag him in those comments so that he can see you. I think that he needs to be seen by us. He needs to know that we're holding his arms up as he contends for peace in a really dire space. So, brother, thank you for the work that you're doing. Thank you for the gift of your friendship. I'm with you. My love to Miriam and the kids, okay?
Yeah, me too. You're a great family too, and to all our friends, the good people of the US and of the world. Love.
All right, take care of yourself. Stay safe. Be well.
Right.